My son was a very, very social high schooler. He went to the University of Colorado. He had a fantastic freshman year. The first week into his sophomore year, Eric Chase died of an opioid overdose. We never saw it coming. We never thought we would get that call. Every parent doesn't want it. We got it. Sorry.
And joining us now to talk about the fight against opioid abuse in our country is a man who calls himself now an accidental expert on the subject. He's former Fox News anchor Eric Boling, who lost his dear son, Eric Chase, a sophomore at the University of Colorado, to an accidental opioid overdose last September. Eric, it is a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. This is a very, very important topic, and as I wrote on that CNN.com piece, I became an accidental expert because I never thought I was going to be this involved in something that had to do with opioids. I didn't realize the extent to which they're killing American people, youth. If you're under 50 years old, you point that out, it will kill more people under 50 years old than anything in the country, more than cancer, more than guns, more than car accidents, more than anything. It's an epidemic. It's a national epidemic, and it's taking our young people out of real productive life as well. If it doesn't kill them, a lot of them are ending up in rehab.
Right, and walk us through when you got the call for the first time, and then you've used this to try to help other families, and what does that work look like?
So this goes back to September 8th of 2017, and it happened to be the same day that I had spent a few weeks negotiating a separation with Fox, and we had an amicable split. We went our separate ways. And I knew the next day it was going to be, Boling's leaving Fox, and there was going to be all these issues, but I wanted to get out in front of it. It's my lawyers and my agent. And I said, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but let me have this night with my wife. My wife and I went to dinner, and later on that night, after dinner, we were driving home. She's driving. You get that phone call, that proverbial parent's worst nightmare phone call. It was a little late, it was around 10:30, quarter to 11, and the phone rang, and it didn't make a lot of sense why the phone would be ringing, my cell phone. So she pulls over, and there's a gentleman on the line, and he's a young kid. I didn't even really know who he was. He's like, "Mr. Boling, please call Kayla right away." And Kayla was a girlfriend of his, a friend of his that he was kind of dating and seeing. I called her number that he had given me, and she was crying. And for some reason, the first question I asked wasn't, how is it was, what is he alive? And she said no, and she was crying. And I literally fell to the ground. My wife was listening. She fell out of the car onto the roadway. I picked her up, and we sat on the side of the roadway. And your life, you think you can go through life, and I, for 15 years, was on TV, 12 with Fox, and, did all these other things. You think you know what your next step is going to be. At that moment, everything got thrown out the window, and we went into this survival mode. I found out the next day, and part of the reason why I'm so passionate about this, the next day, there were news, TMZ came out and Daily Mail came out and said, Eric Boling's son committed suicide. And he committed suicide because he left Fox, or there was something with Fox. And neither one were true, and I knew it, and we had talked to a coroner, we had talked to a detective, we had talked to our private doctor in Colorado. And it was 7 weeks before the coroner could come back and say, they had already told us that it was accidental, but they came back and said there was fentanyl mixed with Xanax in his system. And I've learned from since then that this is a killer mix. You can't mix an opioid like Xanax with a fentanyl because it slows your breathing at the same time. What he had done, we found out subsequently, was he had purchased the Xanax like millions of college kids do on college campuses. They're not prescriptions, but they buy them from whomever, and they're just regular Xanaxes, and they use it for anxiety. I didn't know he was doing it. But this one happened to be from China, illegally here, and it was laced with fentanyl. And fentanyl, if you don't know, it's strong painkiller. It can be 50 to 100 times more powerful than morphine. And if too much fentanyl gets into one of these mixes, it kills. The very next day after Eric Chase passed, there was I think he was a military man. He may have been a lieutenant, but his 19-year-old son died of fentanyl overdose in Colorado as well, likely from the same bad batch.
Wow. So I think, so many people, as you mentioned, have come to know you and love you from watching you over the years and support you and your wife and your family. How are you doing? And the reason I want to ask you too is because I'm sure there are parents out there watching who have a similar situation or are struggling with a loved one who has addiction. And what words of wisdom can you give them for parents grieving?
So immediately I went to Twitter and I said, look, this is happening. This happened to us. If it can happen to us, we were just helicopter parents. We adored him. We spent so much time with. I flew out to Colorado to spend Father's Day with him in June, and he passed at the beginning of September. And so talking about it a little bit made me realize that there are so many parents out there that haven't had this discussion with their kids who want to, who are now able to do it because they see if someone who's been on TV a lot is willing to talk about it. It's not such a a badge of
a scary thing or the stigma.
Dishonor, a stigma, right? And so I think number one, you need to talk to your children. Number two, look for behavioral changes. Like I said, Eric was a very social kid. He drank, he smoked pot. We had hundreds of conversations about hard drugs and the dangers and all that. And he would consistently say, Dad, I got this. Dad, I got this. Well, I believed him. His grades were good and everything seemed fine. But in the last few weeks before he passed, he had a very marked change in behavior. His personality changed completely. He didn't want to talk to us. He was blocking some of the phone calls, and it was a dramatic change. Now, if you look at Daily Mail, there's a Columbia University student, a 19-year-old sophomore, whose parents are telling their story about their son who died of an opioid overdose and had the exact same experience. Great kid, great family kid. All of a sudden, in the last couple of weeks before death, a marked personality change. I think that's important. Look, opioids has killed 175 people per day. If anything else in the United States killed 175 people per day, we would be all over this. We should be all over this from both an awareness standpoint, which talks about the demand for opioids, and a supply awareness, which talks about where's it coming from. Are big pharma pushing pills on doctors and they're pushing them on patients? It's all of the above, and we need an all of the above strategy to create the awareness and save some lives.
¿Cuántos son, güey?
Son dos.
Pongo dos, luego.
Eric Boling joins us now, and you saw him featured in that PSA. He's been meeting with the president and the White House to sound the alarm on America's opioid crisis. Also with us, Dr. Dave Campbell. He's the founder of the online health newsletter Thrive, author of the book The Teen Formula, A Parent's Guide to Helping Your Child Avoid Substance Abuse. But what we're learning is that this is touching everyone. My daughter lost 2 friends in the past 6 months to this.
You know, when my son was, and I told you this in our conversations on the phone after this terrible tragedy happened, when my son was in college at the University of Alabama, he lost 4 or 5 friends in the fraternity system there. And I remember asking at the time, what the hell's happening? Well, because that was at the beginning of this process. And time again, it happened to kids that you would never expect it to happen to.
Boy, Joe, you're touching on so many issues in that one comment. By the way, thank you for bringing awareness to this, because you guys have been front and center on it, and it's really important to talk about it. One of the things that you talk about what's happening. Well, opioids they've become so in abundance in America. We represent, the United States represents 5% of the world population. We consume 90% of the opioids in the country.
In the world, 90%?
In the world, I'm sorry. 90% of all opioids consumed in the world are consumed in the United States, yet we're 5% of the population. President Trump, I went to the opioid summit, and that PSA opened the opioid summit. He's hitting on a lot of the topics that matter to solving this crisis. It's the supply side, it's closing the borders, it's talking to the Chinese. I spoke to the State Department Deputy Secretary at that opioid summit, and I asked him, what are you doing with China? The fentanyl that killed my son, one pill, fentanyl that killed my son, came over here from China. What are you doing? He says, we're working with the Chinese government to close up these fentanyl labs, the old meth labs of the 80s and 90s, the same thing. You know, let me just show you this. This is a U.S. penny. It's about 3 grams. There's in a U.S. penny 2 milligrams of fentanyl can kill a human being. So you could kill a whole room full of people with the amount of weight that's in one U.S. penny.
And Dave, Dr. Dave, that's what we've been talking about, you and me, about what's happening now with so many more people dying, that it used to be that kids would take pills from their parents at home, and they'd take them off to school, and they'd make mistakes, and one mistake could kill them. But now the margin of error is so much smaller, because somebody like Eric Chase, he takes one pill, and this happens time and again now with fentanyl. Somebody has put too much fentanyl in it, and it kills them.
We've gotten here over the last 30 years. And as we have noticed an increasing number of prescriptions, 5 times more opioid prescriptions over the last 30 years than before.
Right.
5 times more opioid overdose deaths in 30 years than before. It is not a coincidence. And more recently, as we as physicians have begun, for a variety of reasons, scaling back the amount of opioid prescribing, we've squeezed down the availability of United States-based, illicitly moved around drugs. And in 2016, there were almost 200,000 new heroin users in the United States, which is an astounding figure. And today, this year in 2018, heroin users are at a dramatically increased risk, as are young kids, youth, young adults taking pills laced with fentanyl that comes from China, that comes from other places.
Can I just jump in on this, Joe? Last time I was here, we talked about this, and CPAC, Matt Schlapp, happened to see the interview, and he said that was very powerful. Can you come to CPAC and talk? And I said, yeah, let's do that. He put me on the main stage, and it was very, very well attended. It was busy, but over the next 2 days, I walked the halls of CPAC, did some interviews, and I was stunned, blown away by the sheer number of young people who care about this. They would come up, they would talk. They would say, I lost 2 of my best friends, or I'm worried about losing my sister. It is an issue that young people really, really care about. People my age are like, okay, yeah, it's a problem, it's an epidemic, let's talk about it. But it is something that is near and dear to their heart, and they really, really care about it. Yeah.
Do you think this White House will act? And what actual tangible steps are they taking?
So this opioid summit was important because they rolled out what their plan is going to be. The president spoke, Melania Trump spoke, Kelly, but they had 9 separate cabinet secretaries, with the exception of Rex Tillerson, who was away. He sent his deputy secretary. They're combating it from both the supply side that we're talking about, some illegal stuff, but also the demand side. Now, the awareness side, I think they can continue to do more. I think we can spend a little bit more talking about getting the message out to young people that you take a pill, it might be the last thing you do. You might not wake up tomorrow morning. People need also to have more access to beds. I'm a firm believer that you don't incarcerate a user of drugs. You just don't do it. You help them figure it out, let them work through it. We need to really provide a lot more funding and assistance to people who need help on the awareness side and the recovery side.
Yeah, and Dave, so parents that are home watching this, and thank you so much for being here, because obviously it's extraordinarily painful for you, and it's what every parent dreads, that phone call. But you've written the teen formula. Give us a big takeaway from that. What do parents need to do
What's
today,
the conversation?
knowing that it's just your child could be one pill away from dying?
The first thing that parents should do today is to go into their medicine cabinet and remove unused medications, particularly pain pills, and take them back to the pharmacy to be discarded. One of the driving forces for some of the early recreational use of opioid pain pills comes from medicine that was found in the house. And President Trump's commission is doing a good job of that. Everybody can do that today. Take your medicine back to the pharmacy and have them dispose of it. They'll gladly do that. Beyond that, there are lots of other steps to take.
There's a big one.
Yeah.
There's a huge one. Joe, I can't tell you, Mika, how many people have come to my Twitter page saying, I had the A student, or I had the soccer captain as a son or a daughter, but they're dead now. not my kid syndrome is dangerous and deadly.
Yeah.
Believe it. It can be your kid, and it's getting younger and younger. We're seeing 13, 12-year-olds who are being exposed to opioids. So have that conversation. Your kid could be the next
And
Eric Chase.
you saw a change in behavior.
You know,
they
that
should
is
keep
so
their eyes
important
open. You
because-
don't notice what you're noticing sometimes.
So here's the other thing you can do. You look for change in behavior, but you also look for change in spending habits. Look for change in friends. And if
Yep.
you have a dramatic personality change quickly, get involved and find out what's
Go
going
there.
on.
All
right,
It's because it is an issue.
Thank you for coming, man.
Eric
you guys
Boling.
so much.
Appreciate you doing
Thank
this,
you.
and please give our love to Adrian.
Thank you so much.